there's usually a little bit of, all right, we are live.
Excellent.
All right, I'll do a little intro for you. Hey, it's the Chief, Bart Brunchine with Bonding with Board Games. Special guest. We're doing just a hangout with Emerson Matsuuchi. Did I say your last name right?
You said it perfectly.
Okay, I've been working on it. I love, first of all, on the Board Game Geek Designers page, thank you for putting it, you put it phonetically, and that helped me a lot.
Oh.
Having a German name, trust me, my name gets butchered all the time, and I was hoping I could get it right. Now Emerson, I'm going to let you talk in a little bit, but you, from what I've seen and from what I know, you're the designer of at least 5, and we may even talk, if you can, about what you may have coming in the future. Trick and Treats.
Yes.
I know you got Volt Robot Battle Arena.
Yep.
My youngest son loves you for that one. He loves all the BattleBots TV stuff.
Is that Bo?
Yeah, that's Bo.
Oh, I'm glad he likes it.
You bet. We got Specter Ops, we got Crossfire, and then I know the hot stuff going on is your Century Spice Road, and then the very cool, I always say it wrong, the Golem Edition. Is that right?
Yes, the Golem Edition.
We'll talk about that. Now, go ahead, and anything else you want to talk about with Nazca Games, your company, or anything, and then we can get into chatting about a few other things too. Is there anything else you want to cover that's going on?
Oh, okay. Well, we're definitely working. One of the things that is a priority right now for me is to get the second game in the Century series. So I'm actually going to be going to the Plan B office on Tuesday. So this is being recorded on Saturday. So on Tuesday, I'll be going to the office to present the prototype that I have for it, and hopefully it's the final prototype of that. So I'm hoping that people who like Century Spice Road will enjoy the next game, which is going to be called the working titles Century Eastern Wonders right now.
Beautiful. And that's set up, you have it set as a trilogy, correct?
That is correct, yes. Good.
Cool. And we've got a couple people joining us here already. We got Kabuki Kid. Hey there, Chief. We got Ash Tree 81. Hey, board gamers. And then they're chatting back and forth. So if some questions come in, or if anyone wants to ask Emerson a question, I've got my my messages popped out. And I'll ask them for you guys.
Okay. Is there a way I could see that in group chat?
You know, there is a way. If you open up a secondary screen and then you mute the actual channel, you can actually do a pop-out. Now, I sound like I know exactly what I'm talking about, but my co-host on my Scott show, Scott, is the one that has walked me through that 3 times, and I think today was the first time I got it to work perfectly.
I see. Okay.
He told me now that I can do that, I'm good to learn how to grind my own coffee. That was, yeah, he was being a little bit sarcastic, I believe. Stephen Smith has joined us, says, hello, guys. Real quick, Emerson, a question. So was Trick and Treats the very first game you designed, and did you self-publish that?
Yes, actually, it is the first game that I designed, and I did self-publish it. Now, I'm not including all the games I attempted to design when I was like an 8-year-old kid.
Beautiful.
It's the first one, and I did self-publish that one.
Now, were you under Nazca Games already?
Yeah. I actually formed a company to publish the game, and the original intention was that I thought I wanted to get into the gaming industry as a publisher. Cool. So that was sort of my first foray, and I would have a couple of titles, and then I was also at that time trying to see if I can publish other people's titles as well. Got it.
Now, very much like I think a lot of gamers out there, I had a little D&D type game that I'd created when I was a kid. My son Bo's now 10. He's actually getting into role-playing games and uses the Fate system to get his role-playing games up. I'm going, what kind of games were you making when you were 8 and 10?
Oh, those are all role-playing games, or they're all related to role-playing games. Although I also made for school projects, I made roll and move type games.
Cool.
So, just because that was the most fun mechanisms when we're growing up as kids. All the games seem to have a roll and move, so it was like a staple for American game design.
Sure. Now, were games when you were a kid, was it family game time, or were you just gaming with your buddies from the neighborhood or older siblings?
Oh, yeah. I gamed with kids from the neighborhood. So we played games like Risk. We played, one of my favorite was, it was called Shogun at the time. Then I think it's changed its name quite a few times to Samurai Swords, and I think the current incarnation is called Ikusa.
Great. Hey, Kabuki Kid has a question. Emerson, he says, someone told me there will be a way to mix the Century games once they are all out into bigger game or into a bigger game. Is there truth to that, or is it just a rumor my friend told me?
There is some truth to that. So the second game, you will actually be able to play it with the first Century, but because they're mechanically different, when you mix them, it's going to, well, after I had playtested with one of my playtesters, he feels that I've introduced basically a third game when you combine the two.
Wonderful. And then Kabuki Kid says, hey, Emerson, what's your favorite game that you did not design yourself?
Oh, not design myself. Gosh, there are so many. If it's board games, I really love Robinson Crusoe and Blood Rage. So from two of my favorite designers, Ignacy and Eric Lang.
You bet.
I also love like Dead of Winter. That's from Isaac Vega, another designer I highly respect. Let's see. There was a point in my life where I loved Magic the Gathering. Actually, I had a love-hate relationship with Magic the Gathering. I loved the game itself. I hated the business model around it because it was very, very expensive to keep up.
Yes. Yeah. Now we'd also talked. I've got a little bit of background again on your noise, by the way, Emerson, just so you got it. But I've got a little bit of scotch here. If my my co-host from Scotch Test Dummies is watching, I'm actually drinking his bottle of his Linkwood 15 from Gordon and MacPhail. So he'll probably log in and tell me to quit sipping on his bottle and switch over to my LaCroix. So for those that don't know, I enjoy my other like big time hobby is Scotch, and I've got a review show on that as well. So now a couple things. I was just looking up some of your history. Now, did you grow up in Las Vegas? I think it showed you had moved from Vegas to New York City.
Yes. Actually, I moved from Las Vegas to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for school.
Okay. Carnegie Mellon, right?
That's correct.
Beautiful. And just out of curiosity, what did you major in, or what did you get your degree in?
Computer science. That was my field. And then after that, then I moved to New York and I got my first job in New York.
Okay. And that's the job you have outside of the board game world, your day job.
Yes, correct.
Beautiful. Now, how much time, I know, because I do the same thing. Some people know I'm in law enforcement. How much time are you able to devote to the board gaming hobby? Because it looks like your day job probably keeps you pretty busy. Well,
actually, I was doing my day job. I was full-time employed, and several years ago, probably back in 2007, I had quit my day job and went into consulting. So I was a software developer, and I switched to consulting. So I was going from contract to contract rather than having a full-time 9-to-5 type of a job. Actually, is that noise pretty distracting? Because I think my neighbor is mowing the lawn at the moment.
No, I think you're good. I can't pick that up, and I was actually concerned as we were getting ready to start. My neighbor was working around in the backyard too. We may have dual lawn mowing going on, and we'll just deal with it.
So we'll have landscaping in the stereo.
That is right. It is the season. Let me see. We've got some more questions coming in. I'll just grab these a little bit as they go. See if we've got someone. Dave, I don't know if I'll pronounce his name right. Dogge, Dogge. He says he's seen Emerson around, maybe. So there you go. You're kind of getting to be a famous face, I think.
Oh, okay.
Emerson, do you enjoy anything that would be classified as a war game?
Oh, do I? Wow, I do like the hybrid style games. So, like I said, I enjoy Blood Rage quite a bit, and I feel like that's a little bit of a crossover. One that's a little bit more closer might be a game called Cyclades or Cyclades. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Sure.
That one it's got a Euro style bidding mechanism, but it's also there's combat in there, war game style combat. So there's a little bit of dice rolling and so forth. I do like, would Warhammer be considered a war game?
I think, yeah.
Like I'm not quite sure where the line is drawn between like a miniatures game versus a war game.
Well, I can tell you, I think the first time I met you was digitally when I was doing the Ham Tag series with my top 5 war panel,
Yeah.
or whatever we want to call Judd and Greg.
Yeah.
And you actually got a hold of me and said, hey, I designed a little like dog tag for you guys with the Ham Tag logo.
Yeah.
And that was my first interaction with you, was digitally. And then, of course, we talked at a few conventions. And now I do believe you are like blowing up as a designer. I know I talked to Tom Vasil about this, and Eric Lang's hot, and there's a lot of other wonderful designers, but you're really putting out some top-notch stuff right now.
Oh, thank you. And I have to give a lot of credit to, there's 2 people I really do need to give a shout out to. One is Tom Vasil, and the other is Colby Duck from Plaid Hat Games. I mean, they've really given me a lot of confidence, and I know Tom has been very, very supportive of my designs, and just giving me that confidence boost to tell me that, hey, I do have a skill in being able to design games.
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
So I feel like the credit that I'm getting, I owe a lot of that to Mr. Tom Vasil.
Yeah, I remember him talking about Trick and Treats, your very first one when it came. I think he even sent that to me after he'd reviewed it and said, hey, take a look at this, because he knew I had some young ones.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Let's see, some more stuff coming in here. Ashtree81 says, I have to say, Emerson, you look quite a bit like a very wonderful Asian Elon Musk.
Oh. I'm incredibly flattered.
There you go. So if you ever need to pull a job off where you're doing lookalikes, maybe back in Vegas where they got a lot of lookalike shows, you could always do that.
Well, I hope I have 1/10 of his genius.
Yeah, I love what he's doing. The way he's using business in order to launch himself to Mars is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
We've got there's a gentleman in here from Florida, Jamie Beaver. He's actually a big fan of my Scotch Test Dummies show. Awesome. He actually says he's preparing for Irma, the storm coming in, the hurricane coming in there, and he just wanted to say, hey,
stay safe.
And then he's talking about he's giving me a hard time about telling Scott not to worry about the bottle that I'm working on here. So let me see if I've got something else in here. They're talking to Jamie about, yep, same as you said, be safe with the storm coming in. Okay, yeah, Tom raved about Century back when it was still called Caravan. Yeah. So some comments coming in on that. Now, out of your designs that we've got here, I listed them off, and I even have like Trick and Treats came out in 2012. I did see, and I wanted to bring this up, Volt Robot Battle Arena is a 2014 release, but it looks like you've got a reprint coming out this year. Is that correct?
Actually, it's not going to be this year. It will be the following year. The reason is that it was originally scheduled to be a German release, but when I spoke to the German company, which is now Asmodee Germany, they are going to, instead of just doing a German release, they're going to do more of an international release. But in doing so, they're pushing it back to a 2018 release.
Got it. I saw BGD had it as a 2017 release, and I was curious because I was wondering, so are they going to, are their original copies still available in the U.S., or are they going to be re-releasing in the U.S. as well?
It's going to be re-releasing in the U.S. as well, and I'm not sure if it's going to be under Z-Man or if it's going to be under a different Asmodee brand or not. So I'm not entirely sure, but when I spoke to Heidelberg, which is a German company that's going to be reprinting it, they said that it was at that time that they told me that they're looking at doing a more of an international release for it.
Beautiful, beautiful. How many? Just out of curiosity, do you know how many were in your first print run or in the print runs that have been released?
Yeah, actually, the first print one I ordered 1,500, and I believe with the overs it was around 1,600 in the first print run.
You put out that yourself through Nazca Games, right?
Correct, yes. So it was a small print run.
Beautiful. And then do you know how much Asmodee International is going to put out? Have they told you what their print run will be?
They haven't given me the numbers yet. So I think it was relatively new news. So I'm I got the impression that they're trying to still work out the details as well.
Beautiful. All right, and then to run down with Specter Ops, Crossfire, and Century Spice Roads. Out of these designs,
yeah,
anything you want to, any color background, or do you have one that you kind of lean toward or favor, or anything even you wish you had tweaked a little bit as your skills have improved?
Oh yes, with Spectra Ops is definitely one that I have a soft spot for because it is. I feel like that's sort of the game that that I guess got me some recognition. So I do have a sentimental attachment to that game, but also it is a game that I thoroughly enjoy playing myself, and it's also a game that when I look back on, I feel like there could have been some improvements that I could have done to the game. Some of them, we may be able to add some rules, tweaks, and things like that. But that's the one that definitely comes to mind as a game that I have a little bit of an attachment to.
Beautiful. Now, you've got such a variety of different kind of styles, even in your mechanics. Where do you draw your inspiration from? Is it just ideas pop in, or you see a game and say, you know what, I think I could take this genre this way?
Yeah, each of my games, I guess they had a little bit of a different starting point. Like, for instance, with Vault actually was the idea came from a game design contest where the premise of the contest was you have to use dice. You don't necessarily need to roll them, and you need to make a game from this. So that's where Vault was born. With Spectra Ops, I had watched an episode of Cops on TV. So it actually started off as a cops chasing a suspect type of a game, and in fact the first prototype was called Wanted because one person was the wanted suspect and the other player was playing the police. So, and then it eventually evolved into Spectra Ops. And with Century Spice Road, that one came from it was just that I enjoyed a lot of different Euro games, but there was always that trading element, or again acquiring resources, trading them, trying to get the right combinations of resources to claim victory points. I enjoyed that aspect of these Euro games, but they all had a lot of other things involved with it. And so Century Spice Road was sort of my experiment to see, can I just take the elements of a game that I really enjoy and just distill it down to just those sets of elements and actually make a game. Now, when I did it on paper, it sounded so simplistic that I actually wondered if there was even a game here. But it was just a pure experiment at that time. So all of my designs seem to have a different origin.
Beautiful. I'll look at some more comments here. So Dave says, first of all, he's helping me out. He says his last name is his surname, and it's just Dog with an overpronounced E. So Doggy.
Doggy.
Okay, Doggy. Dave Doggy. Let's see. We've got, sorry, I was reading again where Tom raved about your Century game. Let me work through. Emerson, this comes from Kabuki Kid. Emerson, what is the game you would say got you into the modern gaming scene? Now, I don't know if he means like the game you played or maybe the game you designed. Let's go with the game you played that brought you into this modern genre again.
Okay. Well, I have to, again, thank Tom Vassell because I saw one of his reviews. It made me go out and buy Settlers of Catan. And then after that, I played it with some friends, some college friends, and his fiancée at the time, and my wife and I. And we absolutely loved it. After we played it, we looked at each other and said, that was a lot of fun. Let's play it again. And I watched Tom Vassell's other reviews, and I went out and I bought Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne and a whole bunch of other games.
Perfect. Ticket to Ride was mine. It was kind of funny. I had been on Board Game Geek because I had settled into this house I was in, and I realized I had all these old Avalon Hill games that I had boxed up from when I was a kid and played in the 80s. And I was actually thinking, well, do I throw these away or do I sell them? And when I just happened to find BGG, and I saw, well, there's a whole other set of games. And I got Ticket to Ride so that my wife and I would have something to do, and she absolutely loved it. And that's how I kind of got ushered in 2006. And then, of course, I started listening to Tom as well when he was still in Korea.
Yep.
So let's see. Dave Doggy says, were there any games that inspired you to do Specter Ops, for example, Fury of Dracula, or did you design that game without any other board game influence? I highly doubt that. But go ahead. What was the truth of the matter?
Okay, I think I had played. Well, I think it might have been Scotland Yard that I played a long time ago, probably back in. Gosh, I don't quite remember. Probably sometime in the 90s.
Sure.
Right? I'm trying to remember how old Scotland Yard is.
I know. Without me going and looking at BGG, I guarantee I would get it wrong.
Yeah. I think that might have been the closest game that had something similar to it in terms of the mechanics of like the hidden movement.
Right.
I did not play Fury Dracula. I still haven't played it, even though it's definitely like one of the top games I'd like to play. I haven't played Clue, the Great Museum Keeper until after I had designed Spectra Ops. And that's when I realized, oh, there is some similarities in the mechanics there. The Spectra Ops was a little bit made in a vacuum. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I didn't have a lot of different games to draw from in terms of mechanical inspirations from it. Not to like give myself credit or anything like that. I think that's probably more just a beginner's fluke of stumbling. But I did stumble on different mechanics until I felt one that kind of captured initially that cops chasing the robber type of a feel.
Good. I love it. That's cool. I actually thought you drawn more heavily from those, but I think that's good that because I knew that genre was getting hot with a lot of the, Fury of Dracula. You're right. The Scotland Yard. They even had what was it? Nuns on the Run that uses it's different but kind of a hidden thing with them. Everybody trying to find
what might have helped in terms of the design process for Spectra Ops was that initially I was going to develop it as a first-person video game.
Wow.
And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine said that, hey, since you like dabbling in designing board games and things like that, have you thought of making it a board game? And that's where I stopped and says, you know what? I wonder if this is even possible to do. Because in the first-person game, the one player would be moving in a first-person fashion through a city trying to get to an escape point, and the other players are the police trying to capture him. But they would, as he moves, they would get readings or they would get some information. So I thought, okay, is it possible to do that in a way where it would work on a board? So I think that might have also helped with the whole design process, going from what I had envisioned the first-person game to be into a tabletop game.
So when you're in your design space, I mean, mentally, is that really some of the, I don't know, like the mana of the design is just trying to puzzle out, hey, this is a neat concept. How do I make this happen? I mean, is that where some of your enjoyment even comes from design?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I will think about certain things that I really enjoy. So one of the most recent things I was working on was at one point in my life, I really liked playing first-person shooters. So when I worked in the office, I had some colleagues. We would agree that on every Thursday, at 6:30, we would log on to Xbox Live and shoot at each other for the next hour or two. Beautiful. So, and I recently just started to take that experience and put that into a game, because now I've gotten to a certain level of confidence where I feel like I might, for whatever the design goal that I have, I may be able to find the right mechanisms to at least make it work. It may not be a completely fun game, but I might be able to do a decent job of simulating what I intended to. So I do draw a lot of inspiration from, like, especially video games. I do get a lot of inspiration from video games.
I love it. I even like the latest trend is that a lot of board games are designing so that you can get up and playing quickly, and even very similar to how video games have come around, that you're just dropped into it and you immediately start to learn.
Yeah. I don't know if board games can ever reach that level, because there is such a good infrastructure in terms of giving just rationing out the information in terms of how to play the strategies can be, you know, fed little by little to the player, whereas in a board game, a lot of that, it has to be front loaded for you even start to play.
Yeah, and I'm blanking on it. I literally got it sitting in the other room. The game that came out from the huge board or the video game designers that oh my goodness,
X versus Minions.
Yes, the way they rolled that out, it was you could just see their video game development style being placed into the board game world.
Yes, absolutely.
That was one of the most, because Bo immediately saw it, and as we unpack it, he's like, wow, so even the visual representation as we started was so simple, and he's gathering those concepts of program movement, which quite honestly, I don't think I would have approached a program movement game with him. But this, he just took to it like water. So,
that's great.
Stephen Smith has a question for you. How do you feel about most new games being in the Kickstarter kind of program?
Oh, okay. Well, with Kickstarter, people have asked me in the past, why have I not looked into Kickstarter as sort of like a platform to launch and to subsidize the company? And I mean, I haven't looked at it in the past few years because all of my game designs have been picked up by other publishers. But in the beginning, it was definitely something I was looking into. And at the time, I decided it wasn't for Nazca games, and not because I don't enjoy the platform. In fact, I just recently looked, and I have over 50 projects that I backed on Kickstarter, because I think it's a wonderful platform for the indie creatives.
Yes.
And but as a company, I guess I wanted a different start, and also I didn't want to see Kickstarter as the fundamental basis for my company. I decided, I'm going to try, and a lot of the companies that I've emulated when I started Nazca Games, for instance, Plaid Hat Games was one company that I was looking up to and seeing, if I can follow sort of their success path. I mean, they didn't use Kickstarter, and also other companies that I've looked into, for instance, with Portal Games or Stronghold Games, they also don't use Kickstarter.
Right. So. Yeah, I know Colby Dowd had Summoner Wars that really launched him.
Yeah.
It's that's a nice way to start. You get a game that launches and really kicks off, and I think he's 20 years old, and he's running a big a very nice sized company and just enjoying that life here. Before it cycles off, and I got to move back here. Let me see. Kabuki Kid wants to know, Emerson, any future expansions for any of your existing games?
Oh, okay. Yes. So we did have playtesting done for the Specter Ops expansion. Now, normally I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Nobody's watching. Nobody's watching.
Yeah. But they've already, they had already done the playtesting, and that was on sort of a semi-public forum. So I'm sure people realize, hey, playtesting has been done for the Specter Ops expansion. I haven't had I was never given a announcement date of when they're actually going to announce it, but hopefully it'll be sometime soon.
Wonderful. He adds in that Scotland Yard was 1983, and then he also asks, do you have a favorite game mechanism, and also what do you feel is an underused game mechanism that's out there?
Okay, so my favorite game mechanism. It's generally, I would say, the one I enjoy the most is a hidden trader or hidden rolls. I do enjoy that personally quite a bit. One mechanism that I'm gravitating towards a lot, at least in my prototype designs, is the shifting center row with an ascending cost. So think Small World, where races at the bottom are free, but if you want any ones that are further down, you have to put something on the ones before it. So, and I use the same mechanism in Century Spice Road, where the first market card is free, but each one after that you have to pay to get further down the road. So from a design perspective, I think that one is my favorite, because I notice that I am introducing that as part of the mechanism for my other games, or at least my other prototypes.
Beautiful.
And a mechanism that is underused. Ooh, that's a good one. A mechanism that is underused. Probably trader mechanic.
Okay. Yeah, I know those. I love the trader games, but they can be a little tricky to pull off perfectly.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had another good. Kabuki Kid's got great questions. He says, if you like Robinson Crusoe,
Yes.
you like games with exploration, and did you back Seventh Continent, which, by the way, that is a phenomenal game.
Oh, okay. I did not back Seventh Continent. I heard about it. I think this was like 2 years ago when Seventh Continent, I saw like a little bit of a preview for it, and it was one of those like super overly ambitious projects, and I was a little hesitant to back, these very, very super ambitious projects, because a lot you'll see on Kickstarter sometimes they don't come out, or the designers or the creators of the project were trying to bite off more than they could chew, sort of a situation. So I took the wait and see approach, but it seems like maybe I should have jumped on that one.
Well, you're right. You never know. You always take a risk. It is phenomenal. The way they worked the artwork on these little square cards tells you things, and you'll see stuff that you don't even have the information for yet, but you'll see like, well, no spoilers because I don't even know. There's some kind of cactus thing on one of the cards, and I know from playing other curses that it's going to mean or do something, or maybe it's edible, but I haven't grokked or learned that information yet. Yeah, it's and the way you can save game with that is so awesome. Well, I'm in this weird moment. I've got like 5 Kickstarters that have literally all Massive Darkness just showed up today, and I'm in this overwhelmed mode where I want to go back and play Seventh Continent, but I've got so much goodness coming in that it's literally the cup floweth over. So,
yeah.
Let me see here. Ash Tree 81. Do you think human psychology / behavior relates to making good gameplay mechanics, and if so, in what way?
Okay, yes. Well, the answer to the question is yes. There is a lot of psychology involved with designing games that, there are games that may not be good, but it appeals to people's psychology, right? There is something in the game that draws them into the game. So there's definitely a strong element of that. So for instance, set collection, I think, is a popular game mechanism because there is something in our psyche that really enjoys completing some kind of a collection or creating a set. There's, there are certain games that like to take advantage of, people's, I forgot what it was called. It was in one of Jeff Engelstein's game tech segment, but it was it was loss aversion.
Yes.
So a lot of take advantage of that, where the threat of losing something is greater than the actual thing you're losing. So there are games that take advantage of that. So psychology is definitely a very, very big part. There's in a way, gamification is really the study of the human psychology and the gaming elements too, right? So
very much so. And Dave Doggy is just like punched me in the ribs here. He said, "Wow, you only got Massive Darkness today." He got it 4 weeks ago, and he's in Spain. Yeah, I know, Dave. I'm just saying, hey, way to go in Spain. That is just wonderful. I take them as they come. I'm so overwhelmed right now, I probably won't even get it to the table for a while. I had to come in and ban. We had a troll pop in. I had to come in and ban him. Kabuki Kid alerted me, and I went back and read his message. He doesn't probably even know what we're talking about here. So let's see. Off of board games. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't drink at all, but do you have a favorite bourbon or scotch, or do you even consume spirits of any fashion?
Okay, I do drink. I do like wines and beers. For the heavier stuff, I know a friend of mine is big into like the Johnny Walker Yellow Label.
Okay. Sure.
And as a gift, I bought him the Dalmore 18-year.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a real nice one. Wow, yeah, it's a good friend if you got him the Dalmore 18.
Oh, he's definitely helped me out quite a bit. So wanted to get him something nice, but I didn't know what would be good, so I had to ask somebody for some advice as to what would be something good to get for him.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I think I've got a Dalmore right back there over my shoulder, right there.
Yeah, I see it. Very nice, very nice.
Very good, very good. Let me see if we've got.
I haven't quite fine-tuned my taste. Like, I don't know what's a good bourbon or brandy or whiskey from one that's not so good. So I haven't quite honed that yet.
Sure. Yeah. It was funny for me because I liked micro beers or different craft beers years ago, but I love history, and I caught a History Channel episode where they just went into the history of whiskey. And I was so intrigued that I had managed to set up, very similar to a wine tasting, I set up a Scotch tasting. Mm-hmm. And that just went further and further. And then my best friend, Scott, was over at the house, and he was literally looking at my wall of board games and said, "My God, you got too many games." And I said, "First of all, you can't have too many games."
Yeah.
And he even said, "Well, there's no way you can play all those." I go, "Yeah, that's true." So that's a bit of my sickness, is I wish I could play everything, but there is no way.
Yeah.
And then he was just joking around and said, "Do you think if we did a Scotch review show that they would send us review Scotch?" And I said, "Well, you never know." And it turns out, yes, you can get samples of stuff for you. So,
that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Well, that's how that was born. So, yeah, that's how that broke down. Let me see. Kabuki Kid had another one come in. Unrelated to games or booze, what is Emerson's favorite movie? He has to know, and then he wants to know what your favorite novel is. And if you go that far down the rabbit trail, musical act.
Musical acts. Okay, I'm going to struggle on that last one.
Me too.
The first one was favorite movie. Wow.
Star Wars would be the easy.
Star Wars, yeah, it's. How about, just to make it more interesting, a non-Star Wars, non-Lord of the Rings, non-cult favorite types of movies. There was one called Sneakers that I really, really enjoyed. But it could be that I'm a programming geek, so I enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed that one way more than anyone else.
Now I'm trying to remember. Tell us a little bit about Sneakers.
Okay, it was a movie. It starred Robert Redford and had Ben Kingsley and a few other notable, famous actors and actresses in the movie, and it was all based around cryptography. So it's a movie based on cryptography. There was a scientist, a mathematician, that may have broken the code to be able to break any kind of encrypted code. And so, because it's a movie, he gets assassinated, of course, but the device works. And so I don't want to ruin the whole plot line, but it was a very, very interesting, very intriguing movie, and it had a great ending. Loved the ending of that movie.
Wow, I'm going to have to go get this. Now you're getting a lot of fans that they agree with you. Sky Splam, Sneakers, nice. Kabuki Kid is with you as well.
Awesome.
Let's see. He says, not a he. Sorry. So maybe Kabuki Kid. Sorry if I said he. Sorry, Kabuki Kid. Hard to know just from the handle. I know. So there we go. Sorry, Kabuki Kid. I'll quit using the gender pronoun of he.
Kabuki Kid is she?
Maybe. I'll just say Kabuki Kid. I like Sneakers too. So there you go. Sneakers is good. And I have not seen it. So I need to I'm gonna throw out, even though I wasn't asked, Quigley Down Under. For some reason, I really like Quigley Down Under.
Quigley Down Under, okay.
Yes, it's a oh my goodness. It's how am I blanking on his name now? He was Magnum PI. Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, yeah.
And it's like imagine the end of the Western, and he is basically taken a job in Australia, and he thinks he's going to be using his sniper skills to take out coyotes or something, and it turns out they want him to shoot Aborigines, and so he refuses, and ruin anything there, but he basically takes the Aborigine side, and he ends up, then it turns into a good old Western kind of shootout, one against many kind of deal.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, I love Quigley. My co-host on the Scotch side, not so much. I don't know why he's a hater of the Quigley. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So Kabuki says, laugh aloud. No worries, Chief. Yes, I am a she. So, and she says, Dan Aykroyd, Sidney Poitier, River Phoenix also in it. And I'm sorry, that must be a reference. Oh, that's also about sneakers then.
Yes. Yep. Those
wow,
are all.
River Phoenix is in there?
Yes. Before he died.
Okay. Wonderful. So let's see. Is there anything on, I mean, I know a few designers and they will tell me that they'll work on a project, and sometimes if it just isn't working, they'll throw it into a box and put it on a shelf or in a closet or in a garage, because sometimes the inspiration on what was wrong will click in later. Do you have a storage area where boxes go while you ponder?
Absolutely, I do. Although I do cannibalize a lot of my prototypes. So, but everything is, I have all the digital files. So I have all my digital files stored away in different things, even though I don't put all the components in a box and tuck them away because I'll reuse those components. But I do have sort of a virtual shelf of where I keep all of my past prototypes.
Beautiful. Now I've got to ask, did you do 4 years at Carnegie?
Only did 2.
2. Okay. Were you into board games at the time? I've got a couple buddies, or even talking to Tom. Mm-hmm. He talked about how that was board game or gaming nirvana for him, when, you got, after your studies are done, you've got all this time, but your friends are right there. Was it like that? You've got a really smart and intriguing and practical group of folks at Carnegie.
Yeah, actually, I was definitely more into the video games at that time. So in college, I was definitely very heavily into the video games.
Gotcha. What was your favorite first-person shooter or video game of the time?
Oh, gosh, I had so many. But probably at that time, it might have been Half-Life.
Okay, sure.
Half-Life was definitely enjoyed that a lot. Played a lot of multiplayer first-person shooters, Unreal Tournament, Halo.
Did you get Counter-Strike off the Half-Life engine at all?
Yeah, actually, I did play the Counter-Strike and enjoyed that. But I think I got hooked into I had a group of friends that was really into Counter-Strike. I think I deviated and went to other types of game genres too.
Got it. See, I went even deeper. I went into Day of Defeat, which was the World War II mod off of Counter-Strike.
Oh, I see. I've heard of that one.
Oh, that hooked me big. Matter of fact, it's somewhat responsible for me getting back into video or into board games.
Right.
There was a deal. I was married. We didn't have kids yet. It's a Saturday, and I thought, well, let me just go play for a half hour.
Right.
My wife comes down about 2.5 hours later and says, "Hey, you're down here just gaming. You want to do something together?" And that was the inspiration that had me think, well, let me pick up a board game. I've been hearing about these. And that was when I got Ticket to Ride, so that, it was still gaming, which I loved, but we could do it together. And that was what opened up that Pandora's box.
Yep.
So, let me see. Quigley, great movie. Kabuki Kid, she says, what unused IP currently screams to have a game made for it?
Oh, there's actually quite a few. I actually had a conversation about this with somebody recently, and some of the IPs I would really love is, aside from Metal Gear Solid, which is the one that I would love to be able to design a game for, but I guess Predator has been used by Upper Deck, but there hasn't been sort of a more of like you play as the Predator and you have figures on the board and things like that. So that was definitely one IP. The Matrix was another one.
You know what? I would love Blade Runner.
Yes, Blade Runner would be fantastic. I think Android and Android Netrunner tries to capture a little bit of that, but yeah, I think a Blade Runner game where you're actually in this environment would be fantastic.
Yeah, because you could even work in the trader mechanic on who's a skin job, who isn't. Oh yeah, there's a lot of ways they could go there.
Yeah,
beautiful.
There's definitely a lot of untapped IPs out there.
All right. So what else is going on in Emerson world? Is there anything else? I mean, I know you were at Gen Con.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, you had a whirlwind of things going on, you know, when you're in, but what was that like, especially with your hot Century games coming out?
Oh, it's very, very busy. So I'm still getting used to people asking me to sign their games. I'm still, even after signing many games, I'm still not quite used to that. I do feel a little bad, like I'm actually, you know, scribbling on, you know, or I'm defacing their property. You know, it's not. I don't feel like I'm adding value to what I'm signing by signing it yet. So it's still quite new and interesting.
Cool.
So,
Now, yeah, very good. I got Blade Runner say cool, and then there was a quote of skin jobs, and then Kabuki Kid says, "Laugh out loud, spoken like a true Blade Runner." Let's see, Astri 81. Real life has its set of gameplay elements: making money, starting a family, break the law, you go to jail, and so on. Any ideas on how to create better mechanics for real life? That's actually a very, very interesting question. Have you ever thought of real life in terms of if it were a game and you were playing it?
Yeah, actually, I've thought about this quite a few times, where like the enjoyment of life is your victory points.
Mm-hmm.
And at certain points, like for instance, right now you're enjoying some scotch, some really good. So you're getting some victory points, okay? But you do have to spend resources, which could be, say, liver cells.
Yes, and then cash flow.
Yep, there's cash flow, exactly. So there's life is really a model where you have all these different resources that you need to manage or mismanage, and ultimately you're trying to enjoy life, or there's some other goals that you're trying to work towards, which gets you the metaphor of victory points in this game.
I agree 100%. It's funny because I've both, on my analytical side, I've tried to set up some economic models that will just be able to churn out a little bit of like worker placer income without me having to literally go cut the wood myself.
Right.
So there's number one. Number two is I definitely only see income as a way of almost barter. If this comes in, there's no reason to hold on to paper money that happens to have numbers on it. It's rather, what can this thing do that I wanted to do for me over here?
Right. Yeah.
And that also keeps you from being both a slave to money. It's simply just actually a means of transfer of this for that.
Yes.
And I'm a big fan of, you know, when is my time of more value than my money, or is there a way that if I could go do X job and make X amount, but I could pay an expert who would do it in half or triple less time,
right,
then it's way better to spend my time in that way and for me to go do something.
Right.
So yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, it may be somewhat pathological, but I definitely believe to a certain extent life's an extension of a game a little bit. But at the same time, I try to use a lot of mindful practices where we're like right here, we're in the moment right now. Just spending time with you virtually is both amazing and a true life experience.
Yeah, this is like what makes our life is all the things that happen, all the events that make up our world lying.
Beautiful. 100%. Yes.
Yeah. Now that being said, I don't think real life would make a very good game though, because there's a couple of things, you know, you have the take that elements, you'll have the random events elements, and you'll have the rich get richer elements that would make life as a game not such a great game to play.
Right. Yeah. We need a like a universal catch-up mechanic.
Exactly. Yes. Life doesn't have a catch-up mechanic.
That's right. If I throw everything into one business venture and it goes south, I can just like, oh, I'll take my catch-up mechanic here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, let me see if anything else is coming in. Told to, well, let me see. I'm jumping in. Check out Leaving Earth, but let me back up and see if I've missed something here. If it hasn't been done, the 1960s space race to an old guy like would be cool. That's Douglas Pearson, and that's where Kabuki Kid says, check out Leaving Earth. Let's see. As you continue on your career, Emerson, what kind of skills, this comes from Jay Rodriguez, what kind of skills did you never think you would need to be successful?
What kind of skills?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. What kind of skills did you never think you would need to be successful? So,
Game design specifically?
I think so. Let's keep it in game design.
Okay.
Is there a certain skill that you didn't think you would need that turned out to be, I don't know, like I've talked to a chef once that said the idea of putting ingredients together, he believes transfers into board game design or many, many different deals. Is how do those ingredients, whatever those ingredients are, how do they mix? And that would maybe be, do you have anything on that idea?
Nothing unexpected, like my past profession of developing software. I think that the mindset of writing software does, I can leverage a lot of the methodologies into game design because there's quite a few things that are similar. Like ultimately, when you break down a game, it becomes almost like a mathematical model or a logical model underneath. And most of programming is really just dealing with those type of algorithms, or those, we call them models. So there's a lot of things that I can carry over from this skill set to help with a different type of a project. So that's to be expected. Probably the most unexpected thing is that actually there is something. When I grew up in Las Vegas, we did a lot of little magic tricks. Just because every party shop in Las Vegas always had a little magic shop, and it was always just fun to hang out in these magic shops. Because the person behind the counter will always show you some cool tricks in the hopes of having you buy those tricks. So, but some of the designs that I had, and especially for one of them, I actually used it's sort of like a deck shuffling mechanism in a magic trick, but I actually used that as a setup for part of the game. So that was actually something that if I had not spent time in a magic shop, learning some magic tricks, I may not have known to use that as a mechanism for a game. So that's my number one. I didn't expect that to be a useful skill.
Beautiful. I love that. That is neat. That's a nice way on how that comes around. I'm a big believer that your life in total, ends up in surprising ways influences kind of everything that you do. So, and those little pieces net together.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. We've got somebody here that's kind of coming on as a troll, and for some odd reason, they must have some programming skills because I've tried to block them, and then I tried to ban them, and they're telling me they're unblockable, unbannable, and sure enough, they're on there. So everybody, please just ignore the individual. He's obviously just looking for some much-needed attention, where our attention will be spent with Emerson.
Oh, okay.
So we're nearing a close anyway. I told you we would do an hour show, but is there anything else you want to bring up, or any ideas on the horizon, or anything you'd even want to share with the viewers we got live?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I did have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
One of them is can you make bourbon if it's not in the actual location of bourbon? Yes.
Matter of fact, here's the legal rules to bourbon.
Okay.
It's just got to be in America, so it doesn't have to be in Kentucky. It's got to be at least, to be called straight bourbon, it's got to be aged 2 years. It's got to be at least 51% corn is the grain in the mash bill. You can still have rye or malted barley or wheat, but 51% of it has to be corn. And it has to be in a virgin oak barrel. It's a barrel that the coopers have made. They've then charred the insides.
Okay.
It hasn't had any other type of ingredient or spirit inside of it.
Okay.
And then here's the very cool, wonderful thing is they can't add anything to it. So they can't add in a flavoring or anything you could imagine. It can't be added in. It's simply got to be the distilled spirit, and then whatever happens with the wood. Now they do some things where sometimes they will then take it out of one barrel and they can barrel age it differently, but but sometimes that'll make it not be quote unquote a bourbon. In
Nice.
America, they're doing some cool stuff, even with what they're starting to call an American single malt, which is, if I'd said single malt, you can kind of think of what a Scotch is, but it would be kind of how they do Scotch in Scotland, but it can't be called Scotch because that's got to be from Scotland. But they'll follow a lot of the similar rules, but they're starting to do an American-ish style. But yeah, bourbon is nice because of those legal rules that are present that make it a bourbon.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. My second question for you, by the way, thank you for answering that, because there was some debate among my friends as to what can be considered bourbon. So thank you. Now I'll be armed with better answers. So my second question for you is, what is Bo's favorite game?
Let's see. There's a couple things going on right now. He will still call for me to take down. Oh my gosh, I just blanked on it. He just asked the other day. From Yellow, the Monsters. Why am I blanking on this? You're drawing cars. New York. I can't believe I'm blanking. I played this for years and years. It's the Yellow game.
It's not King of Tokyo?
Yes. See, why did that leave? That literally flew out of my brain right before I said it. Now there's King of New York, there's King of Tokyo. He loves King of Tokyo. When he was 5, he also loves Pokemon. Currently, he's really big into that CCG.
Okay.
But he managed to put a monster together that in King of Tokyo that had poison spit, I think reflective hide, and something else. And then he could go into Tokyo and just destroy us. And he loved it so much that card element of how your monster is going to be different just really, really intrigues him.
Oh, okay. Very cool. My son really loves King of Tokyo as well.
Yeah, it was amazing when he got when he saw, first of all, poisonous spit he saw that card flip up, and all he did was go for stars so he could buy that card.
Yeah.
and then or not stars, sorry. He started, yes. And then currently he literally created, like I said, his own, he calls it The Game, but he created this role-playing game, and it had these real loose rules. And I said, I'll play with you, but you got to explain to me how this dice roll does this, that, or the other. And he was having a struggle with his mechanisms. And I said, I've got a book called Fate Core. Let me show it to you and see if this would work, because it's designed to kind of be the skeleton for your RPG. And he loved the aspects and the skills, and he, one of his character, one of his classes has a Fate Core ability, and he just loves that, that jumping around and that physical athletic ability. And so a lot of times I'll come home from work, and it's such a nice problem to have. I may be a little exhausted, but he'll say, Dad, I really want to play the game, which means his game.
Oh, okay. And
he even had a neighbor boy come over, and, I even called their parents because I said, hey, with my son, they're both 10, but I said, every once in a while, there's a lot of violence that comes through, as 10-year-old boys do with the RPG. Are you okay with, it's their imagination, it's not mine, but I'm facilitating this game. Are you okay with that? And then luckily the neighbor kid's mom's a teacher, the dad's an engineer. I even said, Dad, do you want to come over and play so you can see what this is? And he said, no, we're fine. Okay. And it was so fun because his son, Luke, comes over, and his imagination just blossomed, and to see them create this world was so much fun. And using that Fate Core system, it's so kind of loose where I'm able to say, hey, your fate dice are here. That's just a fair result.
Right.
What do you guys think happened here? And have them to knit that story together has been a pleasure. So that's probably been his go-to lately. And even him working around like, hey, my buddy can't come over. Can we do a separate, like, one-off with our characters in a different environment? So he's literally getting into that depth of gameplay, which has been really exciting for me.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Let me go back and see if we've got any other questions that have come in, and then I know I've monopolized your time, so we'll sign off. But let me see what we got here. Let's see. Yep. Someone with Sky Splam was helping me out, saying, literally yelling, "King of New York, King of Tokyo." You are exactly right, Sky. Kabuki Kid, she says, I've had great success herself with King of Tokyo and kids. Let's see. Sorry there, Douglas. I know we had our troll. He managed to offend some people. Sorry about that. He's got multiple accounts, so I'm not able to block him. It looks like maybe he got bored and went away. Let's see. Kabuki Kid, the troll, pay them no mind. Yeah, they feed on feedback. Very true. Thank you, Kabuki. Rodriguez left and said, thank you very much for your time, Emerson. He really appreciated it.
Oh, well, thank you.
And Kabuki Kid went ahead and reported the troll as well. So thank you, Kabuki Kid. I think we're good. Thank you for joining me, Emerson. And if there's any talk about Nazca games for a little bit or anything else you want to cover with, I know you've got a lot of great releases coming, and I'll give the floor to you as we close.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that people will be excited for the next game in the Century series. It's the one that we've been spending a lot of time on. So, and I hope it doesn't disappoint. I know the expectations will be quite high. So, we wanted to make sure that this one is going to be a really interesting game, and also hopefully we'll do something that hasn't been done before, where we take two games that are mechanically different and kind of get them to work together.
I love it. And we got one more. Dave Doggy says, are you allowed to give us a sneak about your next big project? And then he said, too late.
Big release. Well, I have been working on a civilization building game.
Oh, this is what they're looking for. Please do tell.
Yeah, so that's I'm actually, right after this, I'm actually going to go and find some friends to hopefully play test it and try to vet it out. But it's definitely been a bit of an ambitious project, and it's taking quite a few iterations. But it's not anywhere near finished yet. But it's something that I've been working on as well.
Wow, you definitely got the interest. A big ooh, and then a capital Civ game, and then Kabuki Kid Civ game. Cool. So good. And then a lot of love coming in from Sky Splam on Specter Ops. I quote, I love Specter Ops, end quote, with a lot of exclamations. So good job, brother.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad people enjoy that game. It's definitely got a soft spot for me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for joining. Tag, and I literally was like, you know what, I need to do some more interviews because I really love being able to interact directly. And thank you. When I reached out to you, you were like, you bet, let's make it happen. So I appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks. Thank you for having me on. This has been fantastic.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off, Emerson. Thank you again. And it's been a pleasure, brother.
No, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Bart.
Thanks. All right. See you guys. Emerson, I'm going to shut us down here. It'll take a little bit while as I stop broadcast here. I'll let you know when we're no longer live. Just hang on a little bit. I'll kind of ramble a little bit until it drops. Otherwise, we're just looking oddly at each other here. Hold